So now God brings them out of this bondage. And now the people begin to complain to Moses that even though God brought them out of this physical bondage, and now that they could be spiritually right with God, that they were more upset that God wasn't taking care of their physical needs. Are you following me? That brings me to my first of 3 points. I got 3 points to be out of here today. My first point, y'all with me? All bread isn't good bread. Did you hear what I just said? All bread isn't good bread. Israel had rather have been in slavery getting bread from the slave master than free and in God's and leaning on God's control. So all bread isn't good bread. What or who is the source of your daily provision? Israel had rather been content being slaves and in bondage, fed by their oppressor, than depending on God for food. Give me my planned meals for my oppressor. Give me it. I know it's planned because once a week, I get it. Give me my planned portions for my oppressor rather than trust in my deliverer. Watch this now. How many times do we attempt to avoid true deliverance because we rather trust the hand that we can see that's feeding us rather than trust the hand of God that we don't see to feed us? Did you hear what I just said? How many times do we attempt to avoid true deliverance because we rather trust the hand that we can see that's feeding us rather than trust the hand of God that we don't see to feed us? All bread isn't good bread. Paul says in 8:24, he says it like this, Romans 8:24, he says, now in this hope we were saved, but hope that is seen is not hope, because who hopes for what he sees? So watch this, how does it connect? We rather trust the hand that's feeding us, that has us in bondage, than to be free in God and trust, even though we can't see God's provision, knowing that God's going to provide. So all bread isn't good bread. Bread that causes you to lower your standards isn't good bread. Bread that influences you to disobey God's will isn't good bread. Bread that inverts that you should be your spirit's influence over your soul and body, but to your body's influence over your spirit and soul isn't good bread. Bread that causes you to operate in regressive faith, wanting to go back to bondage instead of living in freedom, isn't good bread. Can I make it plain? Let me see if I can make it plainer. All love isn't good love. All relationship isn't good relationship. All money isn't good money. All counsel isn't good counsel. And tell the truth, Pastor, all church isn't good church. What's the source of the provision, and who is it coming from? All bread isn't good bread. How do we know all bread isn't good bread? Even Jesus, while in the wilderness, after fasting for 40 days, in what was emblematic of Israel when they were in the wilderness for 40 years, wouldn't turn stones into bread so he could eat. Why? Because the enemy tempted him to do so. And watch this. Even though it was within his power to do so, and even though he was capable of doing so, are you following me? And even though his body desired the nutrients of the bread, Jesus knew all bread isn't good bread. All bread. isn't good bread. Family of God, for us to live effective, present kingdom living, which we talked about a few weeks ago, we have to be discerners of bread.